So before we begin, my just a quick introduction from my side. So my name is Ashish Majumdar, and I'm the Vice President Solutions for HFI Training. Been in the field for more than 23 years now. Been training for the last 5 to 7 years, and right now I head the training function within HFI Training. Right. So I'll try in all my capacity to answer anything, any question, any queries that you have related to the content, or even related to where this field is going in many ways, and what really makes you a complete UX designer. And again, this is coming from my experience of working around the world with different industries and also consulting for HFI for whatever time I have been with them. So that's how we'll keep the session structured. So I'll start with a very small overview of the field and who we are, and then we get into the Q&A mode. So when we are in the Q&A mode, our request to you is please use the Q&A function, which is there in the panel below. So we can keep a track of how many questions are coming and how many of them are answered. So it's kind of good for our records. So we can also get back to you in a more structured way. Yeah. Before I begin, from all the attendees, is there any expectation or anything that you have in your minds that I should know before I begin the session? I have a question from Ramya Annapati. So Ramya, we'll come to this question um, as we uh, as we get an overview of. So some of these things you'll also realize when we go and look at what is the width and depth of this field, where it is going right now. All right, so let's go ahead and begin the session. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see a PowerPoint on my screen? Awesome. All right, so like I said, I represent HFI Training, and HFI Training has been around for more than 32 years now. And during this time that we have been around, we've done a lot of things, and we were a lot of in a lot of places we were the first timers. So in this journey that we have had, we almost trained more than 1 lakh people. We've certified more than 8,500 people till now with the CUA and CXA certifications. Um, Over a period of last 10 years, the frequency of our courses has gone higher. We've built a framework for helping people understand what is the scope of UX. Right? And I'm saying all this not just to blow our trumpet. I'm saying this because from the point where we were a few only people who were doing this work, now you will see a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of studios who are very live and nourishing and doing a lot of work in UX, which only goes to show the relevance that has been established for this field of user experience. I mean, practically from today, if you ask me, we do everything from executive orientation to UX to training students in UX. So you can see, you can imagine the range of applications that have emerged for this field. And so we've been there, we've been doing this stuff for a while. But the root question is, where did it all begin? Even today in the market, you'll find a lot of overlap between what is called as UX and what is really UX, right? So you have people coming from psychology, from system design, human factor engineering, ergonomics, usability engineering, and you have a lot of variation in their titles also, right? And this you'll see in a lot of job descriptions that you find when people are posting for jobs. Um, we need to understand one thing, that user experience is a sort of a combination of a lot of sciences. It is science, first of all. It is not common sense, right? It's not about making a screen beautiful. It's a science. You need to know how a human brain functions, how people think, how they feel. Only then you are able to design for them, right? Otherwise, you are just probably creating some good-looking screens, which are not going to be measurable, which are not going to be predictable, which are not going to bring you business value. So a little into the history of the field, it actually started exactly from the same problem where, during the World War, there were accidents happening in the aircrafts, and when people started doing the research of why are accidents happening, why are pilots not able to perform? Is it a problem with the machine, or is it a problem with the human? And they discovered is actually not a problem with machine and humans, it's a problem with the interaction between these two entities, right? Now I can't blame a human always to commit an error, because we are humans, we will commit errors. How do I design the machine and the interface and the display and the control uh, in a way so that a human does not commit an error or is prevented from committing an error? And to do that, I must know how this human brain operates. Right? That's where the study of ergonomics and usability started. So for people who think that, hey, you know what, usability has just started in the 80s, no, it actually started way back, right? And we've been tracking it since then. We've seen the evolution of this field right from 80s, where you had hardware was the king, right? The best performing hardware was what everybody was looking for. In 90s, it was okay, everybody has hardware, I need a good software. And then that phase also passed by. In 2000, we saw user-centered solution. I have a good hardware, I have a good software. Is it user-centric? Is it usable? Is it learnable? Is it intuitive? Those were the things that got into focus in 2000s. And that's the reason why we have seen a lot of emergence of the importance that we get for this field today is because of this emphasis on user centricity. And today we are on the cusp of crossing usability. We have actually crossed it. I wouldn't even say crossed. Nobody will buy a software just because it is usable. Nobody will go to a website and buy stuff from there because it is usable. Now we are looking for persuasion, how persuasive it is, how personalized it is. What is the experience that it is delivering me? We are slowly moving towards immersion and augmentation around us in everything that we'll do. So 3 years from now, when you want to buy a shoe or a shirt for yourself, you may want to see yourself in that shirt digitally at your home before you actually invest a penny into it. And that will become business as usual. So this is the journey that we've been following. I'm sure you all would be hearing a lot about artificial intelligence and big data and a lot of the new technologies emerging right now and kind of swooping over and taking our space. In fact, they're not taking our space, they are actually enriching it. We've also seen interfaces emerging from this black and green screens to the augmented reality world that we see today. So we've seen this entire transformation as a company, and we have also contributed into it in our work that we've done. We have seen channel ecosystem changing. All of you might be aware that there was a time when I could do one thing. When I wanted to use a bank, I could only go and bank through a branch, right? Today, that's not the case. Today, we have multi-channel ecosystems. We have omni-channel ecosystems where I can be sitting at my home and operating a business or operating for my need through any of the channels that I have, whether it's internet, whether it's an app, whether if it's an ATM, if I'm dealing with a bank. This is the imperative that the business had to build to be able to give us or deliver us an experience as users. So as users, we have really changed. We have really started defining our satisfaction levels. They are very high now. We demand experience, right? Especially with all these newbies who came around, Alibabas and Ubers of the world, who gave us that capability to use them as a concierge. Today, when I want to book a cab, I don't have to call someone. I just go to my app and I book it and it comes to me. So I am the king of my experience. We've also seen a lot of explosion of interpersonal connectivity. So we are talking a lot to each other now. We are learning a lot from each other's experiences. And in turn, that becomes a part of, if you are a designer, then you have to account for the fact that people will be talking to each other. So I have to ensure that I deliver them the right experience. Otherwise, they'll just talk foul about me. We have also seen Uberization transforming lifestyles for us in many ways. If you take a stock of how we were as users, maybe 5 years, 7 years back from now, today we have become a lot more lazy because we have a lot of access through this Uberized lifestyle. You have concierge apps for getting your grocery, your travel, your tickets, your entertainment, your health. Everything is now coming into an Uberized kind of a experience. So that has given rise to us as modern users, where we demand experience. You know, it was predicted that by at the end of 2020, 86% of people will actually pay more for better experience. I'm okay if you charge me a bit more, but give me a good experience. And that's the reason why experience or customer experience is a top strategic priority today. Like, enterprises are investing money into uplifting the experiences of not only their end customers, but also their internal customers, their internal employees. Because people have realized that there is a person out there in my ecosystem or outside my ecosystem who's demanding experience, right? So today it's the most valued differentiator as an internal as well as an external facet of your organization. And you might have heard this word CX coming a lot to you these days, right? So definitely today we are talking more of CX, but in a nutshell, CX is nothing but the overall experience that a brand delivers to a user, whereas user experience is a subset of that experience which deals mostly with your digital experiences, right? Your websites and your apps and your other digital channels that are reaching out to the users. So HFI has been in the forefront of UX for a long period of time. We have also done CX for some of our select clients, but we have been mostly doing user experience. And within user experience, we have been pioneering how to make things usable and how to make them compulsive, how to make them persuasive. These are two different things, by the way, because they involve two different parts of your brains. One is about thinking, the other is about feeling. So we've done a lot of research and we've also done a lot of projects, and we have brought that into our offerings that we bring out to the target audiences in our classrooms. Ultimately, user experience will boil down to these three things: how much I know about the users, what does my business want, and what technology am I using to enable this experience. Technology is an enabler, by the way. So how do you resolve this? And with that, how do you influence the behavior of your users? This is what is the key part of what you will learn, or what you must know as an experience designer. How can I influence behavior? Right? To do that, you will need to understand, you will need to know certain things which are related to, or which you kind of, in the technology world, we call people full stack, developers. Similarly, in the UX world, we also have this thing called full stack experience designers. And what makes you a full stack experience designer is your ability to start, your ability to do research, your ability to analyze, your ability to understand the requirements of your stakeholders, your ability to understand your user's mental model, and then your ability to convert this into a conceptual model or a screen. and then your ability to test the screen. Right? And as you start doing that, you will start evolving, and at a time where you'll also become capable of contributing to your organizational strategy. So in UX, you don't remain as designers. You will have to go elevate your positions and become CXOs, Chief Experience Officers, right? And define the strategy part of your organization, define the innovation track that your organization is working on. So there are a lot of things that are already there in a full stack UX today. And I'm sure as we move and as we have a lot of emerging technologies coming our way, the stack is only going to increase. Now, so this is the overall width of where we stand from a function perspective, from a experience designer perspective. Now, I would quickly take you to what do we do to be able to help you meet, become or qualify or get those stacks in your portfolio, get those stacks inside you. So we have, and this is again something which is public information. So I'm not going to go deeper into why we do this. But we have three certification tracks that we offer. Certified Usability Analyst, CUA, which is the base track. And then we have CXA, which is the experience design track, where we teach about advanced science related to user experience. And we also teach strategy and institutionalization. And we have CDPA, which is a subset of CXA actually. So I'm going to focus very quickly on what is CUA. CUA is your doorway, let's say a 10-day orientation program, right? And it's not about teaching you tons and tons of theory. It's about aligning. If you are a new person who's coming new in the field, it's about exposing you to the basic frameworks and the science that is required to practice user experience. So there are four tracks. There is a foundation track, which is about the science. There is a UCA track, which is about understanding, discovering your user, understanding how to do research, coming up with information architecture. There is a third track, which is about designing. How do you design screens? Like what kind of elements compose your screens, and how do you ensure that they are aligned with whatever you discovered from your user? And then the fourth track is about how you test this designs that you've made. So that's what CUA is comprised of. And of course, you will find all these details again. These are the content details that we have that are covered in each of the tracks. Again, this is something you'll find in our brochures, which are publicly available. Um, then we also have a CXA track, which is once you finish your COA, we now want to expose you to the persuasion, emotion cycles, how people feel, how do you define strategy for your organization, how do you define innovation tracks for your organization, and take you to an advanced level of practitioner. That's what CXA track would typically help you do. This is also a 10-day track, and we suggest that when you finish your CUA, you go back and you spend some time practicing stuff out there, and then come back and look out for CXA level practice or content coming to you. That will really help you, move in blocks, in learning blocks. Right? Again, this is something which is publicly available, and so you can ask for these details. I also have a few of my sales team members here. Anyone reads these details can get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to uh, help you with that. Lastly, what makes up a classroom, especially today? Today we have everything going online. So we have not diluted anything that was coming to you in the one-on-one classroom sessions that used to happen before, I guess, March 2020, right? So today we have the same consultants, today we have the same course material, and today we have, in fact, we have increased interaction with participants today, because we have people coming from all geographies in the same classroom. So there's a very rich interaction that happens in the classes, which has become an asset of late. Yeah. So that's what we have in our classrooms. Cool. So I'll stop here. I'm actually very passionate about this, so I can go just on and on and on. But I know the session is for you. So I believe enough context is set now for us to be able to, take questions from you. And of course, we would welcome questions related to the course. We welcome questions related to anything else related to this field. And I'll do best in my capacity to answer you. I see one of you had raised your hand. So now what you can do is you can start using the Q&A panel to put your questions in there, and we'll go over them one by one. I am now going to look at, okay, first of all, can everybody see the Q&A column? Are you able to locate it? The Q&A tab? Are you able to look at um, the questions that people are putting in there? All right. So, okay, so Ramya, you are able to see only your question. Okay. Okay, so I'll quickly just go over this question. So Ramya says she has 7 years experience in design, and on a scale of 0 to 10, how challenging it is to migrate from a normal designer to a UX designer. It's not challenging, Ramya. And I'll tell you from personal experience, I come from a product design background. And when I migrated to this field, I required somebody to mentor me. That's if you have a good mentor, then getting into this field is all about aligning your designing thought process to be able to design for others. And I learned it the hard way because when I came with my design background, I always thought that whatever I am designing is what people would take. But in UX, we had to reverse that process, saying, no, I am not the user. Probably this is something that's put on the walls in HFI office that, hey, you are not the user. So never think that whatever you think is the right thing for the user. And the only way to know whether it's right or wrong is design it based on science, one, and two, test it. You'd be surprised in one of the geographies in Africa, 40% of people were not even able to recognize the three lines that we use very well today as a hamburger menu. They were not able to recognize that as a hamburger menu. They thought it's a checklist. They thought it's a document. So you can't assume. You have to learn what is it that whatever you design, whether it's actually meeting people's mental models, and that thing takes a bit of time to learn, but it's not an impossible thing to do. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. So if you ask me how challenging, then I would say, um, just to put a number out there, maybe 2.5. Yeah. But please remember, you need to be in front of a good mentor, and you need to be in front of good mentor. Do not get yourself trained from the posts that people post on their social media platforms. That's not a good learning space. Those are just information nuggets that you might look at, but they can't become the backbone of your career, right? It's almost like, if you know how the knee operates by looking at YouTube, that doesn't help you operate a knee. Yeah, that you have to learn, put hard work into it. All right. I have a question from Ramandeep. What is the price for CXA? So Ramandeep, for the price thing, to get you the exact number with the whatever is going on in the current schema of things, I'll let the salesperson answer this question because they'll have the right numbers. Yeah. Is that okay? Are you okay with getting the price from the sales team? Okay, I have another question from Hanish. Um, can we have a real project during the course where we do user interviews, information architecture, etc.? So in fact, this is what we do when we are doing a customized course, which is a B2B delivery that we do. So when we deliver in companies, we ask them to bring a live project so that we can build. In a public course, you can still do this, and you can still prepare and bring a use case where you do the entire user-centered analysis cycle, which is right from defining design strategy to creating profiles, personas, creating scenarios, converting them to task flows, and then creating your information architecture based on that task flow. So yes, if you come in with your case, then you can definitely put it in front of a group there and do it as a real project. If you don't do that, what we usually do in a classroom is we put people into teams and then we ask them to create a project, right? And many people are very excited because they have their pet projects aligned. So somebody wants to build an app for delivering, diapers to kids. I'm just taking a random example. And he or she is very passionate about it. So then the part of the group that they are in, they actually sketch out everything related to that product idea that they have, right from the strategy of it to the screens that they would create as low fidelity screens as a deliverable for that product. So yes, you go through that cycle in the classroom, um, and you go through it as a part of a group, which is all the more good because then you also get to see how people are contributing to your project. I think many of us here will agree that in corporates it's always a team which is working, right? And you also need to learn to be a part of a team while also defending your solutions and also being able to, to me, UX project is more like a baby, which gets born in your head, and then when it comes out, you need to safeguard that baby. You need to secure it. You need to protect it till the time it is ready on its own to go out in the public. Right? And it's not an easy thing to do, by the way, guys, because this is where a lot of organizational politics come into play. A lot of priorities that organizations have will play a big role in you succeeding, to bring something to life which you thought in your head. Right? That's where the fun is, because that's when you feel proud and you feel the efficacy of having done something to the most important guy in the room, which is the user. Yeah. Um, Anish, does that answer your question? Okay. I have another question from Karthik. I have recently completed CA course. It's a great course and worth investment. Okay. Thank you so much for your kind words, Karthik. So you're switching your path from developer to designer. How could you suggest some tips in getting ready for exam? How should I be ready for application-based questions for both design and CV sections? Since I have not done UX projects so far. Okay. Um, So when we talk about exam, the CUA exam, there are a lot of myths about this exam actually. People who clear this exam are like very satisfied and they feel great about having been able to complete the exam in time and all that. Um, there are also some other participants who probably take more than one attempts to understand the exam. So for people like you who are developers and are getting into designers, so this is not only for you, by the way, Karthik, but even for a normal designer to um, to basically crack this exam, right? It's important that see the exam and the exam is not designed to test your memory. Yeah. In fact, in the course, we teach others that memory is fallible. So the exam is designed to test whether you have grasped the concepts, and when you're put in a situation, how will you handle that situation in the best possible way so that you are benefiting your user in the process, so that you are ready to get data from your user. It's not about my manager gave me a list of features, 20 features, and he asked me go ahead and create a screen out of it. And I went and I created a screen in like what, 4 hours, and I gave it back to him, and my job is done. That's not the right way of creating that screen. There has to be a stage where you are able to validate those requirements with the users. And whatever UX method helps you do that is the one that you should choose. So the exam actually tests you on various counts, is whether you have grasped that concept of, hey, I need to do something, and how best can I do it with the intervention of a user in the process. So the scenarios that you will face there are going to be scenarios like this. So you may or may not have worked in UX before, but with the sense that you have acquired from the course, you should be able to visualize that situation and choose a solution which gets you in front of a user, or which helps you align with the user-centric process that we teach in the course. The other way you want to prepare for the exam is to understand the facts and the figures which are mentioned in the courses. So there are a lot of objective questions that are asked in the exam. Those should be easy to answer because those are things that are there in the course material. Right. So my advice to you is, one, go through your course material and map it in your head. When I say map it in your head, it's not like you put a map and you put it inside your head. No, you create an index for yourself and you understand how is the course broken down, how many modules are there, how many chapters are there, what are the keywords associated with each chapter. And then when you are giving the exam, it'll be easy for you to go back to the course material and look for an answer or look for a tip or a cue that's going to help you resolve that particular situation which is coming in your exams. Yeah. Talk to your so one of the things which people seldom do is, you would be a part of a batch, so connect with your batchmates. Couple of you get together and then start revising this material as a team. That really helps you, because it helps you soundboard certain situations and soundboard certain concepts which they may have understood better than you. Yeah. So those are some of the things that you can keep in sight while preparing for the exam. Does it help, Karthik? Um, there's a question from Ramya again. Is there a difference between UXD and CXD? What do you mean by UXD and CXD? What does the D stand for there? Is it design? Ramya? Oh, I see somebody probably has asked it in your. Okay. Can somebody who has asked this question answer just this small bit of confusion that I have? Does the D stand for design in UXD and CXD? Okay, somebody has to own this question, guys. And Ramya says she is not put it there. All right, so let's come back to this. Um, I'll take the next one. Uh, what differentiates HFI to any other institution providing similar courses, and what is the weightage of the program moving ahead in our career? So, in today's world, there are many companies or many training companies who are offering programs related to UX. I wouldn't say similar programs. They have their own way of teaching. They have their own uh, combination of modules or subject matters that they would package and they would teach you, and they would take you to a certain maturity. And I would not go and probably I talk about the effectiveness of what others are doing. because I really don't know. Um, but what I can see and what is a testimony to where HFI differentiates itself is we bring a combination of couple of things into our courses. One is we bring our content from two very trusted sources. One is the research that is happening around the world in the universities, in the labs. So we take that research into consideration, and we have a team of PhDs who look into these researches and the principles and the science that is being discovered in various labs and various universities and under various in various institutions. We take that, and then we have a very rich consulting experience because we have been consulting, we have been helping a lot of organizations. If I actually show you the list of organizations that HFIs work for, I would probably have to scroll maybe 6 times to just show you the list of organizations that HFI has been working for the last 32 years. And each of those projects that we've done, we have evolved as a company, and we have also evolved as a subject matter expert in practically applying principles. So on one side you have principles, and the other side you have application of those principles. We combine them together and create the content which is brought to you in the classroom. One. Two, the person who's delivering you that content is himself either a consultant or an academician who has been there, done that for like 15, 20 years, right? So he knows what goes into understanding science, understanding the application of that science, and then building an experience out of these, and then mentoring you in understanding this whole process, right? Otherwise, what really happens, and this has been my experience, is many people claim to be doing UX. Right? So there are people who are probably just doing screens in Photoshops, and they also call themselves, okay, I'm a UX designer. There are people who are designing screens or just defining the controls on the screens and also calling them themselves, hey, I'm also doing UX. And we have constantly challenged that status quo by saying that UX is not common sense. UX is not just facelifting an interface, right? It goes much deeper than that. And to know how deep it goes is where we bring in our, combined experience from the research and from our own work, and that's what we're able to amalgamate together and give you the flair of it through a person who's doing it. So that's how we differentiate ourselves. Right? Now, industry recognizes this, and that's the reason why many of the Fortune 500 companies actually ask for a CUA certified CUA certification too as an entry criteria into their organizations. Um, so I've been teaching for a while now, and I've seen people who are freshers coming and take the course. For them, it was helpful to be able to understand, the whole flow of the activities. Then I had people coming with certain experience, let's say 3 to 5 years of experience, who have been doing UX, who know how to do it, but who don't know why they are doing it in a certain way, and then how to defend it. See, one of the problem areas that UX designers face is how do I defend my solution? Mera wala blue or tumhara wala green. That when that comment comes in from a stakeholder, how do I defend why I have used a green out there or a red out there or no color out there? By the way, so to be able to articulate and to be able to present and defend what you're doing in a more structured and more scientific way, you need a base, you need an exposure to the science part of what you're doing, and that's how people benefit. So in their careers, they benefit from knowing the nuances of scientific user experience design. If you're already at a certain level in your organization, then these courses will help you be a better leader or manager to your team, one. And two, it will help you elevate or go to a next level where you can contribute to strategy. See, more and more positions are now opening up for things or roles like chief design officer or chief experience officers. And if we are not prepared to fill those gaps ourselves, then there'll be people from other streams who will come and fill those gaps, and then we'll still, as a function, UX will be still left to be led by somebody who's not a core experience designer himself. So I think HFI courses and also some of the university courses help you gain that structured way of thinking. So that's the benefit, and that actually shows when you work back in your organization, when you present your work, uh, it shows in the way your organization would like to elevate you, right? So yes, it definitely helps you go higher in your career. Okay, since does that answer your question? I didn't see your name. Okay, just quickly going back. Okay, so I still not have found who has written this question about UXD and CXD, UX design and so I'm assuming it's about design. So is there a difference between UX design and CX design? No, I would say see CX is the larger umbrella, customer experience, where you care about all the experiences that are delivered to your customer right from the time he thinks about you to the time you serve him and he becomes your retained customer. So your advertising, your brand perception, your experiences across different channels, your post-service experiences. These are all subset of your customer experience design. User experience design is a part of it which deals with your digital channels. When I say digital channel, what I mean, things like website, things like your app, things like your if you're doing an immersive design experience, then that, or augmented reality, everything that is going digitally to your user. Design of those channels is what user experience design would deal with, right? But the base principles that guide these two fields are the same. So I would say, imagine customer experience design as the entire umbrella under which user experience design sits. So to give you another example, going to a hotel, knowing that there is good food here, ordering the food, getting the food, eating the food, paying for the bill, paying for the tip, all of this is the customer experience design part of, let's say, that hotel. Whereas how your food is presented to you, what is the taste of that food, what kind of things have been done to make that food easier for you to eat and also to enjoy. That is that subset of user experience, which is, again, like I said, it's a subset of the larger umbrella of customer experience design, but it's very focused, right? And it's very important because you will never go to a hotel which gives you all the things, in a great fashion, but misses out on the taste and the experience of the food, right? That's why we say user experience is the most important part of your CX umbrella. Yeah. Okay. I know I'm talking to somebody who doesn't want to name himself, but I hope that was helpful. All right. We have a question from Hanish. Can you share some examples which you found common during user interview about uh, human psychology? Okay, some examples which you found common. Examples of what, Hanish, if you can just specify? Hanish? Okay, so Hanish says like common things how people think while they interact with the product or website. Okay, so some examples of what is common during using about human psychology. Okay, so again, these are the things. There are actually many things that we find as, so what we call this thing as what is a common mental model or a common schema that many of us have. sorry, I'm using these words because they are important to explain what really goes inside a person's head, right? So when I'm, let's say, when I'm researching, I do look for what are the common mental models that are coming out of that research. And there are many things that come out actually. Like most of us as users want to recognize rather than recall. What I mean by that is we actually as users hate to type and get the results out of that. We actually like to see things on screen and select rather than going through a search functionality to find what we want to find. You may be surprised because you will probably see that, hey, you know what, whenever I as a person, whenever I navigate or whenever I interact with the website, I always use search. Well, if I do a research on you, the answer that will come out is I don't like to use search because the navigation is confusing, I have to use search. And that's a very common mental model that we find, very common things that people talk about. We also find a lot of in a lot of research that we do, um, people move in a certain sequence when they go onto a website. So when they go onto a website to do something, they don't just start doing it on their first exposure. They first try to establish whether this entity is trustworthy, reliable. And we have in our head, we have certain markers that we have built over a period of time. And we look for those markers. Then we look for whether, this is emotionally stimulating me to do something here. And then when these two things are matching, then I actually go and I start doing something there, which is where the website, if it is persuasive enough, then it will compel me to do a certain thing that they want me to do. So most of our research brings out these facts that people go through this sequence of establishing trust and getting emotionally stimulated and then being persuaded to perform a task or to buy something from there. Right? Now, you may not be able to define it for yourself as a user, but when someone else asks you about this, they will be able to discover that, yeah, you are actually following this pattern. Then we have also found that in research, many people have already created mental models or schemas of common things like how do I use a calendar? How do I pay for something? What are the things that I need to see when I'm in a certain transaction, like when I'm making a payment, or when I'm selecting a product, or when I'm comparing a product? So there are some common, artifacts or paradigms that people have built because we have been exposed to a digital world for a long period now. Again, this is something that we can go over and over because there are so many things that you will find that people actually comply to. Like one of the research which I was doing for artificial intelligence was that people are actually scared of it. By the way, if I tell, if when I did my research, I was trying to find out. See, I have a good intent of bringing something to you which is intelligent and which is going to help you do a certain task, but people are not happy with it. When I'm saying not happy, they've not yet adapted it into their mental model that, hey, there is something which is more intelligent or which knows more about me at that point in time. And how is that going to affect his influence over me? If he starts selling something to me just because it knows a lot about me, then it controls me. And the research suggests that people do not like to be controlled. People always want to have that feeling of control. Right? So yeah, there's very few things. In fact, there are a lot of things, but just in the interest of time, I'm just covering a few key ones that we found in our research, and we keep on finding it again. And by the way, these things are not static because as we get more and more exposed to technology, this mental models will start shifting. They will start adapting to the new reality. So it has to be a continuous effort from a company who's dealing with things where user experience is most important. They will have to be on the top of finding what's really happening in their heads continuously. All right. Any other question, guys? Okay, so till the time you think of questions, I would actually like to share with you all that today we are at the cusp of, uh, you know, the cusp of a point, or cusp of the reality that experience design is going to drive all aspects of all businesses. And it's just, banks and e-commerce and uh, a lot of these things like entertainment industry, which have been in forefront of uh, user experience, are very active in it. But there are many other businesses who are getting digital, who will need help and support and mentoring and a trained and certified staff to be able to even survive. So we are at the cusp of that, transformational journey where we as a society are transforming towards demanding. Your users are going to demand better and better and better experience as the time passes. So you will have to ensure that you know what is good experience, and you are on top of it. So if you ever decide to get into this profession, if you're not, then the times are really exciting. Right? And I'm not saying they are easy, because there is going to be competition. There is going to be internal and external both competition, but there's also that competition breeds innovation, and I think that's where we would like to, well, like this profession to go. Right? Yeah, I have a question from Ramya. I sometimes assume UX is more about explanation. I can design and make good UX. I know this. How can I improve this? Ah, that's good. So, Ramya, this is not just about designing. It's about articulating what you are doing and why you are doing. Right? It's almost like, you know what? I went to a shop to buy a television and I see three televisions out there. The first one which is going to attract me is the one that looks the best. I don't know its functionality. I don't know how it operates. I don't know how many pixel density it has, or how does the remote thing operate. I'm just attracted towards it by its looks. And that is where a good UX also needs to be meeting the visceral requirements. But I am not going to buy that television just because it looks good. Then I'll go and operate it. Then I'll see whether it works fine. How does it look? How does it present itself? How are the controls there? Is the remote fitting in my hand? So that's when I start exploring the behavioral aspect of that product. And that is where UX plays a major role. And unfortunately, most of the times, your stakeholders or your decision makers are not in a position to experience the behavioral aspect of your design. And so you have to take a higher effort in not only showing them what you have done, but also explaining how it works, or showing them how people who have tested it have experienced it. Right? So it is definitely something that you have to put your heart and mind into. Explaining it, so you can only explain it when you are when it's clear in your head, right? When you know the jargons, when you know what is the vocabulary that is going to be effective and impressive and impactful for your stakeholders. So that comes when you start using this science. Right? Otherwise, it's like a book that I read and I forgot about it. No, this is not a book. This is not even a chocolate that if some people here are, or most of people who come to us and say, hey, in 10 days, I'll become a skilled UX designers. Yeah, I'm very gungo about it. Says, no, 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 hang on. This is not a chocolate that you eat and through the wrapper and you enjoy it. No, this is orientation. This is changing of your mindset. So you learn a lot of things in those 10 days, but then you have to go back and you have to find applications and you have to start practicing them. You have to start articulating them. And that's when you start becoming an expert in your own way. Yeah. This is a vast field, by the way. It involves cognitive psychology. It involves visual psychology, it involves behavioral psychology, it involves testing, it involves a lot of science coming from a lot of fields. Yeah. And you can't be master in all. But the good thing is, if you know where the answers are, then you can always find that and use it in your designs and in your applications. And as you keep doing that, those instances, you start becoming your, you start creating your, we can say, portfolio of experiences, and that's how you will evolve as a designer. Yeah. All right. Um, okay, Hanish has a question. Is it possible if I want to join second level course next to CV? Yes, it's possible to join. This course is called CXA, and you can join it uh, directly. Okay. Then we have, okay, so we have a question from again anonymous attendee. For a person who's new into this field and is looking forward to be certified, where do they start from, or which program do they start from? You start from the base level program that is called CUA, Certified Usability Analyst. That is your base level, which is where you can start from. In CUA, we do not look for a qualifier. So you could be anything, anybody doing anything. And if you want to get into the field, it's a good exposure for you. In fact, for such people, we recommend that you take the weekend batches. So after every module, you get 4 days, 5 days in between, go over the material to look out for the application areas and to build that connection or that relevance in your own. See, each one of us has a stack of memory. Each one of us has a stack of experiences. And the idea is, how do I add to those experiences by knowing something new, applying to it, and then building on top of it. What is the educational background? You don't need to have any qualified. If you are a graduate, it's fine. If you are an HSC, it's still fine. But what we say is, you know, some kind of qualification that you have, which is within this field or even outside this field at a graduation level, will help you be at a maturity level. So, I can't have my daughter who's just finishing 12th standard come and do a CUA. She will actually understand much more than many people in that classroom, because today's generation is very, they grasp things very fast. But I'm not sure if they will have the opportunity to apply it because they have time to get into the profession. Right? So it's a good to know for them if that is a level, but uh, but there are no entry barriers that we have. Yeah. These courses are classroom or they're virtual. When we say virtual, it's called virtual live training. So it will be a session like what you and me are having right now, where you'll have an instructor and you'll have a Zoom session and you'll have a classroom, and we have online activities which are shareable. So people can do these activities individually. And if it's a group activity, then we create breakout rooms. In Zoom, you have this nice functionality where you can put a group of people in a room and they can discuss and they can share their screens within that room, and then they can come back to the main room and present whatever they have done. So yeah, this is a virtual live class. All right. Any other questions from anyone else? Okay, Ramya, I understand. No problem. All right, so we have a last couple of minutes. If there are any more questions, please type them in. So this is not the end of discussion, guys. If you have any questions, even after this session, you can always reach out to our sales team, and you can also you can ask them, and we'll be happy to answer the doubts that you have, whether these are related to um, the programs that we are offering, how fit they are for you, or there's anything else that is more suitable for you that you should be doing. So we'll be happy to answer that. Yeah. I'm just like Dr. Eric Schaefer. I'm sure you would have heard about him. He's the co-founder of HFI. His vision to start these programs was to share the knowledge and share the share the experiences that we are building as an organization and make them available to a larger pool of people and help build maturity to this field, right? Because his vision has been to make this an institutional practice. So on one side, when you get certified and when you learn about this field, you add value to yourselves, but you also add value to your organization, and you also add value to the profession, the field. And today's conditions are a testimony to the fact how um, important this profession is for all the organizations, whether it's a public organization, a government organization, or in anything that is dealing with people. Yeah. All right. So if there are no further questions, then we will close the session. You can reach out to this email that Ankit has just shared. I think there was a question on the cost part, and I'll leave that sales team to reply to that question because I do not have the exact figure that you have right now. So you'll get a more focused answer from the sales team on that. Uh, yeah. So have a great day ahead. And like I said, reach out to us if you have anything more. Um, any last call for? Oh, I have a question now. Okay. In today's scenario where everybody is working remotely from home, if anybody wants to start as an individual program, how will the program would suit them or help them as an individual to kickstart as an individual career? See, uh, in fact, this is a great and very relevant question. And to be very honest, um, in today's situation, and by when I mean today's situation, I mean that this is going to be the new normal for a long period of time where people are going to work remotely. If I just take even UX as a function, a lot of things that we used to do in one-on-one sessions like research, testing, are now forcefully done in online sessions. So it is actually an opportunity for us to learn the nuances of what really should be done different or better when we are doing remote work or when we are doing online, when we are not in the same room. In fact, people who want to start their careers now have a better, I would say, canvas to reach out to many other service providers or many other employers who are not in their geography, because you can now work remotely from wherever you are. And if you're able to, whatever skills you have, if you're able to be, if you're able to make those skills as effective in the online mode or virtual mode as you were in the offline mode, you're good with it. Right? So when we went fully online as HFI, we actually had brainstorming sessions to figure out what are the things that we should do differently, what are the things that we should do to ensure that the experience for all of us remains the same. And we came up with ideas and we implemented those ideas. So I think that's an opportunity for everybody here to come up with their methods of making this remote working effective. Right? So in fact, it gives you a higher reach to a larger set of audience because you don't have to be there. You don't really have to be in the same physical geography. I mean, just to quote a number, last year itself, we we trained almost a four-figure number in Singapore in 1 year because we were able to deliver online. And by the way, that training, why I'm bringing it up is because that training was able to put them in front of jobs. Yeah. So, in fact, this is, I would see this as an opportunity for individuals to pick certain skills, build those, make them effective in the online or remote world. And you will only benefit from it by being able to reach out to a larger set of audiences, larger set of companies, larger set of roles. In fact, very interestingly, I mean, sorry, I'm just going overboard a bit, but I've seen people doing two professions now. They've shifted from just being into one profession. They're doing two. Why? Because they don't have to go out of the house. They can manage their time. Yeah. So there's a lot behind that actually. I hope that answers your question. All right. So thank you very much, all of you. Um, so we request you to share your feedback so we can improve these sessions and we can have more of these to help you with whatever difficulties you have, whatever doubts you have. Have a good day. Stay safe.